as well as for the stakeholders meeting. Now, if they are impressed, we're going to sign a final contract with them. But now I'm in a situation where leveraging talent has almost, I've given up. Now I'm in a situation, if I don't execute it efficiently, then I'm losing the project. No, you all are seniors. How do I go about it?
Okay. See, in fact, what we are discussing is three very fundamental: talent attraction, right? Now, for me, one of the most important things is let's look at it. How do we manage the constraint of not being able to attract talent because people do not want to work in Hubli or whatever it is? Not that everybody doesn't want to work in Hubli. You do not know who is willing to come if there's a good job and a better sense of ownership. For that, in fact, one of the things which I offered Naveen was I run a consulting firm which does placements, which does training, and I said I can, but research also shows many of the SMEs find HR interventions from consulting companies to be expensive, and therefore they don't want any consulting assignment. So what I told him is, let's create an alternative solution. It's not only me, you can go to many consultants. What we need to do is, in your sandbox, you should appoint one or two guys, and as a consortium, what I call as consortium consulting, as a consortium, you pay what is affordable, whether it's 5,000 rupees a month each company or 10,000, pay that for talent attraction support and talent development support. Now with technology, I can do training from Bangalore to all you guys. To the core group, we can keep upgrading your skills and so on and so forth. So I think that's the only solution which I can see. If you can add, I would be very happy if the other panel members can share this. Because you need support from your partners like consulting organizations which are into placements. Because that's the only way you can do talent reach. I used to have something called a 4T strategy when we started Tejas. Because we were competing with Cisco, Juniper, multinationals. They were paying much more than us, at least about 40% more, even within Bangalore. And how did we go about? We first told I had a strategy called job value. If you sell that you are giving the best technical job for a techie, that is the most sweetest news you can hear. Second is ownership. You are going to tell him you're going to work 2 notches above. They treat you as a programmer, but I'm giving you a job as an architect. Immediately he will jump the gun. Then he will ask for money. Okay, now you can tell him, okay, what is the money? Okay, if he's a core group, outprice him. You have to pay him more. Why are we afraid? Because if you pay him more, you can demand more. And I think don't look at compensation in isolation with productivity. Look at productivity and then look at compensation. Because once you have a good guy, he will generate additional incremental revenue which is much more. What you are paying him 30% more than other guy, he might give you 60% more return. So I am saying you have to you have to change your mindset and give better compensation to attract talent. Otherwise it's not going to happen. The third important thing, what is the future you guarantee him? So that future can be in terms of ownership. Like you're going to have an equity, when you go for an IPO, you have to paint the big picture and you have to give him stocks. And you cannot say, I'm the only owner, he will not be the owner. That's the only way I look at it. And then, so job, ownership and touch. What I would say touch would be, what I would look at in Tejas, when a guy joined, I have to ensure resettlement. A guy came from Delhi. I would send somebody to the station or to the airport to receive him. If he had kids, we would go and take him to a school to get his school admission done. These are all touch processes. And when he came in, his guest house, we would put him in a guest house, ensure that he's getting proper food. And if it's a North Indian food. If it's a Kerala food, you have to go through a whole lot of touch processes to retain your core group. We cannot say that is not important. So I think if you follow this policy of having job, ownership and touch. And the next thing which I look at is, what is your framework for managing your organization? I have a simple solution there which I've developed. I will discuss if you're one-on-one. It's called the CARES framework. It's a commonsensical framework of building an organization. The first lesson is, I look at, if I come and say, is your organization as healthy as you are? Like, how do I know I'm healthy? People have they check my respiratory system, they take my, like blood circulation system, they look at my neural system. Similarly, organization has its own respiratory system, your own neural system. The first thing is, do you have a good strategic quotient? Which means, do you run faster than competition? Because nothing succeeds like success. If you cannot run faster than competition, you could have the best touch processes, you'll still lose. People will leave you. Because people want to be associated with successful companies, not failing companies. So the first is strategic advantage. What is your strategic quotient? Second is, there are a lot of companies great in strategy, great plans. They have fantastic, we must do this, but they fail in execution. What is your execution quotient? Right? So your execution quotient is very important. So strategy quotient I call it as a customer quotient. Second, execution quotient I also call it achievement quotient. The next is your retention quotient. What is your ability to retain? We talked about venture capital funding. One of the things that they look at is what is your retention percentage in the last 3-4 years, besides your forward earnings and so on and so forth. So what is your retention quotient? You have the ability to retain the talent which you have. The next is what is your competency quotient, for which you need to develop. Like in the morning some gentleman was saying, very rightly so, I train my people. But a lot of times people have told me, I don't want to train my people. If they leave, what happens? There are solutions to that problem. If you have spent money on training, you can sign a bond. There's nothing wrong with it. Because you are training him, let him make a psychological commitment or a statutory commitment. He'll work with you at least for 1 year. There's no problem about that. So you have to have a competency quotient. And the last one, you have to build your brands. Like this gentleman from VRL said, that you have to have an image quotient. You might be small, but like simple thing, Pradeep Gar, who started Microland, both of us would go to Bombay. As an example, I'll tell you, we didn't have money to advertise. How did we advertise? We'll go, when we went to Bombay, when we started the company, we'll get into a taxi and we'll say, where do you want to go? Computer Point. That guy will say, what computer point? We'll say, don't you know, it is an 90% growth. So like this, we went on building word of mouth thing about Computer Point. So you work out innovative ways of advertising yourself. Okay?
Shekhar, just drawing the lead out of your point, how critical is to strike a balance of empowering people? One of the examples you said is like the stock option. Stock option in Infosys, when locking period opened in 2003, most of the senior people have become millionaires and they left the company. So, how we should strike a balance, between these two things. Like, you give an opportunity to become, entrepreneurs in the days to come for seniors, but how to build the next level, or how we should go ahead.
Okay, let's look at it this way. Most of them, when they got stock options, employee turnover increased, but many of them who earned a lot of money are still there. Number one. It's myth because people it becomes their baby. And by the way, by the time they really became millionaires, many of them had also people breathing down the neck saying, I want your seat. So you've got to have a good succession plan. It's like this, today you're an entrepreneur, you're the owner, right? Something happens to you, God forbid. Who's going to take over the company? So you have to look at organization entities dispassionately. Like I never go to my office. Last 1 year, I've never been to my company. I only look at the finances, right? I've never been. I've become a lazy guy. The guys call me. I tell them don't disturb me. But they run the company. They should take the share of profits. I only sign checks, and I just look at whether in terms of finance there is absolute integrity. In the sense I know there is integrity, but I do my own audit because there are at least about 30 people. One guy could be getting into hanky-panky. So you have to build an organization at second level. Otherwise you cannot. Like say for example, let's take Udupi chains. There are Shanti Sagar, Sukh Sagar. They create multiple things. And I have run a food business where I used to do 15,000 lunches a day. We started as a hobby in Bangalore. Now when we wanted to expand, if I have 10 companies, I cannot be breathing down everybody's neck. So you have to delegate because then it's an advantage to the business. Because if you have 2 of you, you can scale. Otherwise you cannot scale. Right? So you have to have succession plan. That's the only way you can move. And the reality is, good people also will leave. Stars will leave. No. So you've got to have a backup star.
Another emerging, in fact, the critical point of business nowadays, the Reserve Bank of India, as you came from the finance stream, must be aware of, must be knowing. Reserve Bank has increased the rate of interest several times during the last 1 year. Now, probably we are now going to live in the regime of increasing rate of interest in India. So businesses are suffering. Businesses are suffering because in servicing the debt, they are finding it more difficult. But can private equity be looked at as an alternative to the debt component in the capital structure of the companies, the businesses? Or does it have any limitations as compared to debt, to look at it as an alternative to the debt in the capital structure?